What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video I'll be taking you guys through my ultimate guide to the upcoming blank/double Game Week 25. Now are we only going to focus on Game Week 25? Obviously not. Massive news dropped yesterday. Double Game Week 29 fixtures have been confirmed, so I'll be going through that in this video as well. Now usual talking points covered in this ultimate guide are going to be the stats review. However, I've taken kind of a remix of the stats review, going to purely focus on double Game Week 25, as I do understand there are some kind of dilemmas you guys are focusing on in terms of captaincy and the transfer plans. Now after that I'll be going through a question that everyone's asking: how many hits are viable for blank/double Game Week 25? Another double Game Week 29 has been confirmed. That question gets slightly more interesting. Then I'll be going over a fixture kind of planner, a chip strategy, all mashed into once using Ben Crillin's spreadsheet. Then finally, the question that I think everyone's asking, or I don't even know if everyone's asking it, see a lot of Salah captainers over on Twitter: are you guys Team Salah or Team Saka? Or is there another option that you guys are potentially missing in that captaincy debate? I'll be going through that captaincy question to wrap up the video, so make sure that you guys stick to the end to get that. But without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now I mentioned that I'll be doing a kind of remix of the stats review. I'm going to purely focus on double Game Week 25. As you guys know, 4 teams do double in the upcoming game week, and that's going to be Liverpool, who have Crystal Palace away and Wolves at home, Wolves who have Fulham away and Liverpool away, Arsenal with Leicester away and Everton at home, and finally Everton with Aston Villa at home but Arsenal away. Now you guys have seen these fixtures, I've mentioned them in so many videos in the prior kind of game weeks, but we haven't really looked at them from a stats debate. Now the reason I wanted to do this is that obviously on those transfers you guys are probably looking at bringing in a Liverpool asset, an Arsenal asset, or maybe even a Wolves or Everton one. So I want to show you guys what the stats are saying. So what I've actually done is I've gone for XG of the team on the left, and then I've got XG conceded of the 2 fixtures. What this will help you see is that you guys are actually getting both the XG and the XG conceded of every side. For example, we'll be looking at the Wolves XG conceded, but then when you talk about Wolves, we obviously will look at the Liverpool XG conceded. But I'm sure it'll make more sense as we go through each team. So let's talk about the first team, Liverpool. And the first stat you're going to see is going to be the XG non-penalty over the entire season. Now stay tuned for the portion of the last 6/7 games, as I know that might be also a useful stat. But in terms of the entire season, Liverpool have accumulated an XG non-penalty per game of 1.9, which sits them in the top 3. Now I definitely think that Liverpool's attack hasn't been the weak spot of their Premier League season, definitely the defense that has let them down, so I would prioritize the attackers versus the defenders from this Liverpool side. Now in terms of the XG conceded of their opponents, Crystal Palace come in with 1.44 and Wolves with 1.72, which looks pretty good on paper. Now what you guys can do if you want to kind of get a metric of which double game week teams to actually focus on, you can times the XG by the XG conceded and add them for both the fixtures. But stay tuned to my Twitter page because I will be doing this myself, as I think it might be slightly useful. Next up is going to be Wolves, who have an XG non-penalty of 0.88 per game this season, and they have one of the worst attacks in the Prem. So this does make it quite hard to recommend those Wolves attackers, but when you do look at their fixtures, 1.74 for Fulham and 1.57 for Liverpool this season, I think surely that attack might be quite fruitful in double Game Week 25. But tough to say because we kind of have a bad attack versus bad defenses. Who's going to turn out to be best? Now you guys can see, for example, what I was talking about. We do have the Liverpool XG non-penalty of 1.9, but when you do cover Wolves, you get the XG conceded of 1.57. So going purely on stats, I guess the 1.9 is bigger than 1.57, but it isn't as simple as that, and you have to look at the fixture. However, talking about kind of the Liverpool defense being so bad, we now get the XG non-penalty of Wolves of 0.88, so if you guys do have those Liverpool defenders, I think there's definitely a chance of them actually getting a clean sheet here. But now moving on to Arsenal, 1.82 XG non-penalty per game, so a pretty strong attack as well. Then in terms of Leicester, we have 1.53 and 1.59, so in terms of those attackers, definitely can recommend those Arsenal attackers, and that's why I'm personally looking at a Saka captain. Now if you guys do have to kind of compare the 2 game weeks of Liverpool versus Arsenal in terms of XG conceded, Arsenal definitely have the better double game week on paper. But let's see if that does hold true when we do talk about the last 6 games. Then our final attack to go over is going to be that Everton attack, 0.97 per game, and their fixtures against Aston Villa hold 1.58, but the game against Arsenal will be quite a tough one with only 0.92 XG conceded for them. Now like Liverpool, Arsenal, when you look at that Everton attack, it looks like this could be a clean sheet on the cards, and I guess that's why we're not looking at any Everton attackers. Now if you guys do prefer the full season stats, what this kind of tells you is that Liverpool attack definitely should be focused on. Arsenal are a quality side from an attacking and a defensive point of view. And in terms of the best double game week, it looks like Arsenal have the best attacking one. But now let's switch things up and go over the last 6-7 game weeks. The reason it's going to be the last 6-7 is obviously some teams have blanked, some teams have had double game weeks. But don't worry, these are still per game averages. Starting off with Liverpool, their XG has gone down to 1.6 per game, and Crystal Palace and Wolves have had an XG conceded of 1.5 and 1.72. Wolves have had an increase in XG non-penalty, rising to 1.01, and the XG considered of their opponents now 1.56 and 1.73 respectively, makes this double game week look even better from an attacking point of view. We then go into Arsenal, who've also had a drop off in XG non-penalty 1.54, but their opponents of less than Everton 1.9 and 1.61 make this an even better double game week from an attacking point of view. Moving on to Everton, their XG non-penalty has been 0.78, but just remember, Sean Dyche has just taken over. He's only managed them for a few games now, so the real extent of that managerial change hasn't yet been seen. But still, that XG non-penalty is still pretty bad, but at least their opponents Aston Villa have had a worse XG conceded, rising to 2.09. Now Arsenal's XG conceded has also gotten worse, they've risen to 1.22, but like with most teams that you guys see on screen right now, the dip in XG non-penalty has been kind of normalized by the rise in XG conceded of their opponents. So not too much more insight can be kind of taken here. We've seen the Liverpool and Arsenal attack get worse, but so have the defenses of some of their opposition. But once again, from an attacking point of view, looks like Arsenal do have the best double game week, whereas Liverpool games might be slightly trickier than people are expecting. But once you guys have seen the stats, has this changed your mind in terms of Captaincy, in terms of transfers? I don't really think it's changed my mind too much because I already have an Arsenal triple up, so I own those assets, but in terms of Captaincy, this could play into my mind. But I'll go into a question that kind of earmarks any kind of blank game week, any double game week. It's how many hits are viable and how much is too much. Now I did have a couple of questions on my Discord server of should you free it, how many options should you own to justify free it, and I honestly would say that now that we've got the double game week 29 news, I would probably hold off on the free it. I think you guys can take a few hits, get 8-9 players that should be perfectly viable, as the options that you bring in right now could play in the potential upcoming blanks and doubles. So that's kind of an answer to the question, should you guys free it? I would definitely hold off on it. But in terms of the main question, how many hits are viable or justified? This has got a little bit more interesting now that the double game week 29 fixtures have been confirmed. Now we'll be talking about the fixture schedule coming up in the next talking points, so stay tuned to that, because that'll give you the real context about what I'm about to say. Now in terms of how many hits you guys should be taking for the upcoming game week, or how many hits are allowed, I would say that a -4, -8, lots of managers are taking those hits, so I think you're going to be in good company if you guys are on a -8, but that's probably where I would extend to. I think most managers are going to game week 25 with 2 free transfers, so if you guys will take your -8, that means 4 transfers, but I guess it could also mean 3. Now what I definitely would consider is how long term or medium term this transfer is going to hold you on, because if you bring in a Liverpool asset for a hit, just remember they could potentially blank in game week 28. Now if you guys are going to bring in an Everton asset, just remember they do play in game week 28, do play in game week 32, so they could be a good options, and that's why you guys have to look at the fixture schedule. Now generally if you guys are taking hits for transfers, you're probably focusing on one side, and that's going to be those Liverpool assets, and that is a little bit risky. Now the reason for that I just spoke about, it's going to be that blank game week 28 fixture, which could put a spanner in the works. Now we won't know the result of that FA Cup game until game week 26, as it's being played between game week 25 and game week 26. But generally with the double game week, I would say I would probably still take a hit for those Liverpool assets, especially if you guys want to captain them. So let's go back to my rules of taking a hit. The first rule is going to be if it's a blank game week, are you taking out a blank game week option and bringing in an option with the fixture? You probably are. You might even be bringing in a double game week option, which makes it even better. The reason for that is I don't have to explain to you guys 2 appearance points at a minimum in 2 games is going to equal 4 points. And if your player wasn't even featuring, you've already paid off that hit. So any points gained, any points they get for an assist, a clean sheet, a goal, that's going to be absolute net gain. So that's one way of looking at it, a double game week, a blank game week, that generally does justify a hit, and that's why it's fine doing it. The second rule is going to be, are you captaining the player that you bring in? If you bring in a Saka, a Salah, are you going to captain them? Because then it also does increase the chance of you repaying that hit, because obviously you're getting double points. So I think most people looking to bring in Mo Salah might be looking to captain him, so that's a viable hit in my opinion. What I also would add is that if you guys are looking at bringing in a Saka, I definitely would do that for a hit, because for me, he's the best Arsenal attacker to get. If you guys don't have an Arsenal triple up, that's also justified on taking a hit, because they do play the upcoming blank game weeks. So those 2 rules, are you taking out a blank game week player, or you bring in a double game week player, or are you going to captain the player you bring in for a hit? If the answer to any of those are kind of yes, then I probably would say it's justified. And then Arsenal and Liverpool assets for a hit, I do think are worth it. So if you guys do follow those rules, I think that you guys should be fine. You should be able to calculate if it's worth taking those hits. But if you do have any dilemmas or questions, drop them in the comments down below or on my Discord server, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. But now going on to the actual fixture plan, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using Ben Crellin's image. I do apologize for being a little bit lazy on the graphic side of things, but work at the moment is a little bit of a crunch. So thanks to Ben Crellin, go follow him over on Twitter. He's an amazing asset to have in the FPL community, and I always say the blank and the double game week guru, and definitely helps us out a massive amount in these Premier League seasons. So as you guys can see on screen right now, it's going to be the schedule from game week 25 to game week 34. There's going to be a double game week in 37, but we can't really predict that too much at the moment. So let's focus on game week 25 to game week 34. Now if you guys are a little bit confused about the previous talking point about the hits, don't worry, we'll be covering some more context in this talking point, but you guys can always ask me in the comments down below if you have any questions. Now the first thing I want to say to you guys, and this might be slightly unpopular, but I honestly don't expect you guys to have a set in stone chip strategy at the GAMEWEEK25 deadline. The reason I'm saying that is that we do have the FA Cup, and obviously the FA Cup does give us an indication of who's going to blank in GAMEWEEK28, and also be giving us the draw of GAMEWEEK28 that will allow us to predict the GAMEWEEK32 blanks. The FA Cup round is being played between GAMEWEEK25 and GAMEWEEK26, and therefore by the GAMEWEEK26 deadline, we will have our strategy set in stone. Now yes, there might be some changes happening in GAMEWEEK27, GAMEWEEK29, that sort of thing, but come GAMEWEEK26, the context of the game weeks will be pretty set out. So I will repeat that again, I don't expect you guys to have a set strategy come GAMEWEEK25, but come GAMEWEEK26, we're going to have two important pieces of information, the blanks in GAMEWEEK28 confirmed, and also the projections of the GAMEWEEK32 blanks. For the GAMEWEEK32 blanks, I'm going to give you guys an example here. Let's just say that Manchester United and Manchester City face off in the next round of the FA Cup. That'll mean in GAMEWEEK32 we do have one confirmed fixture from either of those two teams. The same example can be used for that Fulham vs Leeds game. That's in the next round of the FA Cup. Whoever wins that will blank in GAMEWEEK28, and whoever loses it will have a fixture. So that's why all of us are going to be paying attention to that game, because obviously Liverpool do face Fulham, so if Fulham do lose, Liverpool now have a blank game week fixture. So a little bit confusing there, but I will explain this in more detail next game week, because as I mentioned, I don't think I can honestly agree on a strategy right now. Now saying this, I do think that FPL managers love to have a plan, and that's perfectly fine. If you guys want to kind of plan out your two different strategies, go for it. But what I would say is please don't decide on one right now, as in the context of those blanks. Now if you guys do want to hear the most popular strategies right now, there are going to be two popular strategies that I have seen a lot over on Twitter. The first strategy is going to be to wildcard in GAMEWEEK27, free it in GAMEWEEK28, and then bench boost in double GAMEWEEK29. The other strategy on the cards is going to be wildcarding GAMEWEEK33, bench boosting GAMEWEEK34, and then using the free hit either in 28 or 29, but right now GAMEWEEK29 looks quite popular because it is a nice double game week. Now between those two strategies, I think that I'm between both of them. I haven't really decided on which one I'm going to be going for. As I mentioned, we know that context of the blank game weeks. Now before we get into too much more fixture talk, I want to give you guys some context about the fixtures that were confirmed yesterday. That's going to be this double GAMEWEEK29 fixtures. So on screen right now, I've kind of minimized the image to only focus on double GAMEWEEK29, and these are the confirmed doubles. Now there are some teams I want to focus on. The first one is going to be this Liverpool assets, Man City away, Chelsea away. Pretty terrible double game week, and I can't see us getting too many of their assets if we do choose to use the free hit. However, we do have some nice doubles coming up for United. They have Newcastle away and Brentford at home. Chelsea also have a reasonable double from an attacking point of view. Aston Villa at home, Liverpool at home. We just saw Aston Villa and Liverpool's XG conceded in the previous kind of talking points. Chelsea could absolutely feast. Brighton have a pretty good double, Brentford at home, Bournemouth away. Then there are some other teams that have relatively bad doubles, or teams that aren't in form right now. For example, let's take a Bournemouth, Fulham at home, Brighton at home. Nice double on paper, I guess, but not really seen too much out of them. Nottingham Forest, same thing. West Ham, same thing. But that's the nice thing about a free hit is come GAMEWEEK28, maybe these teams are on form. Solanke looks good, Bowen looks good, and on a free hit, they could be mega differential. Now what I will say is that Leicester probably have the best double of the game week. Crystal Palace away, Aston Villa at home. On paper, that looks simply outstanding, especially with the way they're playing currently, because they are one of the most informed teams. Now what you guys also have to please take note of are the single game weeks. I know all our eyes kind of focus on the yellow, but when you do see Arsenal taking on Leeds, Man City taking on Liverpool, those single game week players might outperform some double game week players. And that's the real caveat about the free hit in GAMEWEEK29, is you guys can kind of use the free hit, take out 3 Arsenal assets, take out a Haaland, then they end up banging, and your free hit might actually give you a net loss. But on general planning for double GAMEWEEK29, it's quite hard, but you guys can kind of pause it right now, but I'm going to move on to give you guys some more fixture context. So talking about double GAMEWEEK29 in the context of kind of the next 5 game weeks, I don't want to focus on GAMEWEEK32 too much. You guys know the blank game week coming up, GAMEWEEK30 for the double. Let's only focus on the next 5 game weeks, and let's talk about some potential strategies. So the big thing about double GAMEWEEK29 is you have to look at the preceding game weeks, because if you guys aren't going to use the free hit in that game week, then you have to use those for planning. So the big thing about double GAMEWEEK27 to double GAMEWEEK29 is that we have consistent doublers here. We've got Brentford, we have Brighton, good doubles in 27, okay doubles in 29. So if you aren't looking to use the free hit in GAMEWEEK29, you probably want some of their assets because you already have them in GAMEWEEK27. But then boom, go and look at GAMEWEEK28, it's a blank game week for them. 15% chance of them actually having a fixture for Brentford, 5% chance for Brighton. That's a pretty much blank game week confirmed. But yes, you guys might argue that you are getting 4 games in 3 game weeks, which isn't too bad, but isn't really optimal to keep hold of them for blank game week 28. So that's why I guess some people might be saying that they want to use a free hit in game week 28, which I can understand, but I think you might still be able to get to this blank game week without using a chip. Now Liverpool, another interesting team there. They have a nice double in 25. They might blank in game week 28, 38% chance of them blanking. But then when you look at their double in 29, you probably won't want to own their assets anyways. It's a little bit of a tough one there on what to do with those Liverpool assets. But other teams that do make it quite interesting are going to be the United assets as well. So they have a blank game week in 25, blank game week in 28. And that's why if you guys do choose to do the free it in 29, you could triple up on them, which might be a little bit differential. Now other teams to focus on are going to be the teams that have a confirmed fixture in 28. And a double in 29, such as Aston Villa, who look pretty strong if you want to go for a Watkins. A Bournemouth, I can't really see too many of us bringing those assets in. A Chelsea, who might be slightly differential with a João Felix. And then we do have a team like a Nottingham Forest, but can't see too many of us bringing those assets. So as you guys can see, it's a little bit of a weird one on how to actually prepare for Game Week 29's double. And that's why the Game Week 27 wildcard I think is so attractive, because you wildcarding in 27, you bringing in those assets, you then free it in 28, nullifying that risk. And then in Game Week 29, you can bench boost, as there's a lot of doubles to actually go for. Now what I will say is a little bit of a downside to using the free it or the bench boost in 29 is the fact that we could actually get a pretty respectable side because of the amount of teams that actually have a double game week. So much so that you might even be able to use the bench boost without wildcarding in 27. But very kind of all over the place at the current moment, a lot of thoughts going around of potential teams, and that's why I'm going to focus on Game Week 26 deadline to actually lock in my strategy, because then we have the confirmed blanks. I can tell you guys a Liverpool blank, maybe Leicester lose to Blackburn in an upset, that could also happen. And that's already locked in my strategy right now because there are a lot of up in the air arguments. Now I'm going to be going back to the actual full schedule because I want to talk to you guys about the transfers for the upcoming game week, because that's basically what you guys should be focusing on and how that's going to affect your future plans. Now the double game week teams, let's talk about them. The first one, Arsenal. I can't really recommend Arsenal enough. You guys can see they have a double in 25, a fixture against Crystal Palace in 28, and a 67% chance of not having a blank in game week 32. So the only blank of Southampton do get to the latter stages of the FA Cup, which I don't really think is too kind of realistic. I do apologize to Southampton fans, but I do expect them to get knocked out before then. So Arsenal basically have a confirmed double in game week 32, and that's why I do recommend their assets so much, and it's so integral that you get the best three. But they're a very easy side. If you guys do want to take a hit for an Arsenal asset, I can honestly recommend it. But now going to the Liverpool assets, and they get slightly trickier because as you guys can see, a confirmed game in game week 32, Nottingham Forest at home, great fixture on paper, but they do potentially blank in game week 28. Not only that, after that they have a double game week of Man City and Chelsea, and that's why it might be quite nice to actually free them out, and then you get them back in from game week 30 onwards anyways. But I do honestly hope that maybe Fulham get knocked out, because that'll make planning a lot easier. You can just keep hold of a Mo Salah, a Darwin, a Trent if you want to, without getting punished because of that blank. But what I will say about this Liverpool assets in terms of transfers in, I don't think the double game week 29 news would affect me too much. The only thing it might change my mind about is getting 2 of their assets instead of 3, as then it leaves you a little bit less exposed. The Everton assets are very nice assets to bring in because they do have a confirmed in 28, not the best against Chelsea away, but I guess it is a fixture. Then in game week 32 they have a confirmed fixture against Crystal Palace away. And that's how I've kind of changed my transfer plan focus of going for Trent. I think I now will go for Tarkowski because they do have those blank game week fixtures. Now the final team, Wolves, is a little bit hard to kind of predict because like Liverpool, they could potentially have a fixture in 28 depending on the outcome of that Fulham vs Leeds game. And they do have a chance of having a fixture in game week 32. But what I would say is I can't really recommend too many of the Wolves assets. The fixtures in between them, Spurs and Newcastle, aren't that great. But I guess if you want to take a punch, you could go for them. So kind of wrapping up this very kind of confusing fixture schedule, but don't worry, next game week we'll have a lot more clarity and context about the blank game weeks. I don't think the game week 29 doubles have much of an impact on your transfer plans. You're still going to bring in a Salah, a Darwin, a Trent, that sort of thing. And the fact if they blank in 28 or not is going to probably change your chip strategy quite drastically. But please do kind of a short-term, medium-term planning in terms of your transfer plans, so at least when you do get this context of those blanks, you guys can sub them in and make your decision. But as said earlier on, very kind of confusing talking point. Let me know any concerns in the comments down below or my Discord server. But now finally go on to the captaincy debate, and this week it's a little bit of an interesting one. I think most options will probably go for a Salah or a Saka, but there are some other alternatives. If Haaland does play against Bournemouth away, great game on paper, he could bang in that one. But generally I think most options are going to go for a double game week player. So we have already kind of mentioned them. It's going to be Salah and it's going to be Saka, 2 players that I think you guys should be captaining this game week, as the chance of points is absolutely massive. Let's start off with Mo Salah, Crystal Palace away, Wolves at home, good fixtures on paper there. XG considered not as high as kind of the Arsenal fixtures, but still Mo Salah is more of a talisman. We've seen Mo Salah kind of change his role from a finisher to more of an assister, assisting Gakpo and Nunez in the past couple of games, and definitely looks to be on good form. Now if we do talk about Saka, he has the better XG considered fixtures in my opinion, the better fixtures on paper as well, and Arsenal the best team in the Prem at the moment. Now in terms of my own kind of decision, I think I slightly am edging towards going for Saka because I think he is more reliable than Mo Salah. Might not be Mo Salah, but it might be Liverpool more in general, who are simply on an absolute seesaw of form. But I do think you guys can't go wrong with either of them. I really do hope that the distinction between these two captains isn't that much, but I can't promise anything. Now if you guys are having a hard decision on the fixtures, let's go over to the projected points, and these come from Fantasy Football Fix. Now Salah's the projected points leader. He's projected to score 11.9 points, whereas Saka's projected to score 10.6. So on projected points, Mo Salah is the favourite, but what I will say is that he's always favoured on these models because of his historic form. So another stat I wanted to go over, because this might depend on you guys going differential or not, is the top 100k ownership. Now what I will say is this is from the GameWeek24 deadline, and I'm pretty sure everyone's going to bring Mo Salah into their teams. But as of the GameWeek24 deadline, Mo Salah was owned by 4.58%, whereas Saka had a larger ownership of 60.62%. Now what you guys might say is that who would you rather bring in for this upcoming game week? I've seen more options kind of bring in Salah than a Saka, so Saka's ownership might stay constant. Whereas Mo Salah will get a massive boost heading into the deadline. You guys can do your predictions down below. I'll probably say about 50% of the top 100k will own him by that game week 25 deadline. But with the ownerships in front of us, I do think that Saka might be the safer option to captain. I think more options will own him than they do Salah, and therefore I do think the effective ownership will be on his side. Now giving you guys my opinion, I'm on Team Saka. Are you guys Team Salah? Comment it down below. Also comment if there's another option you guys are considering, an Odegaard and Ketia, or you guys going more differential for a Darwin, a Trent, maybe even a Gakpo. Let me know your thoughts. But that's wrap for you guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please don't like if you didn't subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the team selection coming up tomorrow, where I will kind of detail my transfer plan heading into that Game Week 25 deadline. But I'm signing off, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.